some games support both sort of a low cover objects and in addition to high cover objects, and those provide different affordances, different opportunities for the player. And so being occluded in low cover, of course, means you need to have some sort of crouch mechanic or a snap into cover mechanic, such as like Gears of War or Uncharted has. But let's go ahead and kind of enumerate kind of what else we have as far as the difference between low and high cover. So high cover allows for quick occluded movement. So, and I'm kind of doing this from the perspective of sort of Last of Us, but in The Last of Us, for instance, you can sprint and run, you can stand up and move quickly when you're hidden. When you're behind high cover, and you can do that sort of hidden from the enemy. When you are behind low cover, if you want to be occluded, you have to move slowly, and that's generally kind of a convention through a lot of different games. So let's see. Also, aggressive gameplay it tends to be you able to do that behind high cover. So doing things like melee. Melee fighting people, stealth killing people tends to be things that you need to do behind high cover, because low cover you'll be exposed. And so low cover, of course, has the affordance of being able to move through it, to vault over it. So it doesn't hamper your movement across the battlefield as much. You can move through it. So there's a win for low cover as well. So protected from elevated positions. So essentially, when you are behind low cover or a high cover object, as you can see, when you're I guess in cover right here and you're shooting sort of at an enemy right here, you really just have to worry about where that enemy is shooting in on you. You are protected from the top. Sort of basically an enemy can't shoot down on you this way, and also you're protected from sides, so enemy can't shoot at you this direction. Of course they can run around, but when you look at, for instance, a low cover object, this is not true. So here I'm taking cover, or the player's taking cover and can shoot at this enemy, but when they do, they're also exposed to this enemy when they pop up, and very likely, depending on the game's mechanics, they may be exposed to this enemy when they're even in cover. So essentially that enemy can just sort of shoot down at you. All right, so let's see. Also, I just kind of went over that. More protected when aiming versus more vulnerable when aiming when you're in low cover. And reduced battlefield visibility and movement. So high cover is, because it's high, it sort of blocks line of sight, and you can't really see the shape of it or the shape of anything behind it, of course, because unless it's partially invisible. So low cover is, the shape is easily readable. Let me show you sort of an example of what I mean by that. If you're behind a low cover object, you can easily see there's an enemy over here. You can easily see the outline of this cover object and see how it's sort of T-shaped, how you can use it right here. If this were sort of a high cover object, not only would that enemy be hidden from you, but also the fact that this cover object is T-shaped also is hidden from you. So it's hard to sort of plan in advance as you sort of try to use this cover, and that goes doubly so for if you have, a lot of cover objects. So as you can see here, if these were all high cover objects, they do have their own advantages, but as you can see, you would not understand that this was T-shaped. You would not understand essentially how to use these objects. You wouldn't even see this object or this object, or most of it anyway. But since it's low cover, you can sort of plan in advance that if I'm going this way, I'm going to go behind here off to over here. If you go this way, you can sort of take cover here and then move here, so you can sort of plan in advance where you're going. So that added visibility is a big win for low cover. So that's mostly the differences between sort of the high and low cover. And then another thing that is becoming more common in cover-based shooters and shooters in general is a concept of sort of stealth grass. And of course, I don't remember exactly when the very first sort of stealth grass was introduced, but I do remember playing it in like Metal Gear Solid 3, for instance. Uncharted very recently, Uncharted 4 and Horizon Zero Dawn used stealth grass most recently, in my memory at least, and which allows for sort of easily occluded maneuverability around the field of a battle on sort of a plane instead of in a two-dimensional behind a single cover. But this is at the cost of combat vulnerability, of course. Grass may block line of sight, but it doesn't block any bullets. So generally it's only useful when you're in stealth. So, and of course, it also sort of has another problem where it is to some extent ambiguous as far as visibility goes. How close do enemies have to get before they see you? There's sort of a range here that's sort of hidden from the player on exactly how close can they get, how much can you actually like approach them from the front and stuff like that. And that's sort of a space you have to kind of figure out on your own as you play. So that's cover in a nutshell. Let's go ahead and start talking about how cover can interact.